doing better as a result of social media presence.
If it doesn't do those three things, then it's on the chopping block.
It's a return on investment discussion.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of the Daily Dealer Live. I'm your host, Sam Dark, and this is the space where all automotive comes together to have a real voice in what's happening today across our industry. So whether you're a dealer, a vendor, or someone just passionate about where automotive's headed, you are in the right place. Thanks for being here. Let's get to it. First up today in breaking news, Primal Capital Partners has filed for bankruptcy. This after months of missed interest payments and failed talks with creditors. According to a press release, the Texas-based firm provides financing to buy here, pay here dealerships that cater to credit-challenged buyers. The company says it plans to sell the business through bankruptcy court while continuing to fund the service and service existing dealer and borrower loans. Primal listed both its assets and liabilities below $500 million, that's $500 million, and says it's secured new bankruptcy financing to keep operators running. CEO Mark Jensen emphasized that no debt is being called due and that the company intends to maintain its dealer relationships during the process, which as an aside might be tough when you're under a bankruptcy filing. The filing shows the recent collapse of another subprime lender, Tricolor Holdings, which shocked investors after sliding into liquidation just weeks ago. Bottom line here, well, tightening consumer finances are putting real pressure on lenders and the dealers who depend on them. And is this yet another canary or a second or a third canary in the coal mine for the subprime market? Next up today in our first news item, a new international standoff over Dutch semiconductor chip maker is threatening to throw the global auto industry into supply chain chaos. And this is something most may not know. We're bringing it to you here as part of the CDG special. The Dutch government seized control of Nexperia. It's a China-owned semiconductor company that makes hundreds of millions of chips used in vehicles for everything from switches to steering wheel controls. In response, Beijing retaliated by restricting exports, cutting off the flow of those chips to global automakers. Nexperia has already warned major suppliers like Bosch and Denso that it can't guarantee deliveries. And automakers were told earlier this month to brace for shortages. U.S. plants could start feeling the impact as early as November. And industry groups say even a brief pause in shipments could shut down production lines. What's the bottom line here? Well, every day the Nexperia disruption drags on, vehicle production becomes more vulnerable. So this news item, kind of hidden in the print, could become a major impact to our automotive industry, even here in the United States. Next up, we turn to the CDG buysell.com tracker. Buysell.com tracker.
CDGbuysell.com.
Jeremy Hodge Auto Group is expanding again in Oklahoma, acquiring Patriot Honda in Ardmore from Patriot Auto Group. The store is now operating under its new name, Jeremy Hodge Honda. Hodge Honda. It's the second deal between the two groups in just over a year. Hodge also bought the former Patriot Chevrolet GMC in Ardmore last October, rebranding under its own name. For context, Patriot Auto Group was founded by Tatton Manning in 2014 and has grown into a 7-store network across the state. Hodge, meanwhile, comes from a deep dealership family, and he got his start working for his grandfather, James Hodge's Ford store in Idabel. Big picture, with deep local ties, Hodge is aggressively building an Ardmore stronghold, likely seeing higher margins or customer loyalty in a market where he already operates. And so you don't forget, you can see these deal announcements and many more throughout the entire year on the CDG Buy-Sell tracker at CDGbuysell.com. Cue the tracker.
CDGbuysell.com.
We love our tracker. We're going to get more of these little jingles because I just love it. It makes me happy. Next up today, a new report from Spine, an AI-based auto retail tech firm, says 2026 will be defined by one thing above all: the balance between supply, demand, and price. The company's analysis warns that tariffs and affordability pressures are converging to create what CEO Sanjay Varnwal calls a, quote, composition crisis, meaning the industry likely won't see a shortage of cars overall, but a shortage of models customers actually want due to longer lead times, fragmented shipping routes, and higher compliance costs. Spine's analysts also noticed a new kind of slowdown they're calling the, quote, intent gap. They say it's when shoppers browse online but hold off buying because they're spooked by talks of tariffs or rising payments. What's the takeaway? Well, according to Spine, for dealers, profitability will come down to reading buyer behavior faster, adjusting mix quickly, and staying nimble in a market where psychology matters as much as price. And finally, up today in CDG News, Porsche has officially named its new CEO. This ends months of speculation about leadership and putting to rest concerns over Oliver Blume's dual role running both Porsche and Volkswagen. Taking over is Michael Leaders, the former McLaren boss, who also spent more than a decade at Porsche earlier in his career, where he helped develop the first Cayenne hybrid. Leaders brings a mix of engineering depth and luxury sport experience from Ferrari and McLaren. This makes me happy, having just been to F1. Credentials analysts say the lineup perfectly with Porsche's next chapter as it pivots back towards hybrids and performance models. Looking ahead after a stretch of divided leadership and slowing momentum, Porsche is finally getting a dedicated chief, the move that could sharpen its product focus, stabilize operations, and re-energize dealer relations heading into 2026. And that is a wrap on today's CDG News. Yuli, welcome back.
Happy to be here.
Hey, we're pumped to have you. We're going to have some great conversations about all things automotive. And on that note, let's dive right in. Let's turn to dealer principal of Chevrolet of Troy, Ohio, by the way, Jacob Shepard. Jacob, welcome to the show.
Guys, thank you so much for having me. It's a great pleasure to be here.
We are excited to hear your perspectives and learn from you, as is our entire audience. By the way,
I hope I
Rod,
can give some good information.
Thank you. Rod from the Q responded in, watching from my office right now. And one thing I forgot to say, Jacob, and we do this all the time, we're live streaming across all the CDG platforms. If you know Jacob, if you have an opinion and you want to ask a question, you want to share a perspective, put your comments in the chat. Whether you have a question about some of these subprime things that are going on or a topic Jacob brings up, we'd love to hear all of your perspectives. And it does change the trajectory of today's show. All right, Jacob. Let's start out with the question we start with on everyone, which is how's biz? And as part of that, tell us a little bit about who you are, where you are, and what you do.
So I'll answer the second question first. So my name's Jacob Shepard. As you mentioned, I'm a dealer principal of Chevrolet of Troy. So I run the day-to-day operations. I'm kind of like a guy with many hats within the business, you could say. Yeah, I'm 33 years old now. I started in the car business when I was 19. I originally had a goal and a plan of getting a job with General Motors. And I just didn't have a college degree, and it just didn't work out. So make a long story short, one day I went and bought a truck from a Chevrolet dealer. And it's like, wow, this guy gets to wear a shirt and tie every day. The heaviest thing he listens to a pen all day. This is exciting. And I was working for a retailer called Kroger at the time on the back dock. So totally opposite of what I do now. And I applied for a salesman's job. I got the job, and I just come in there every single day, 7 days a week for years, with the goal of being the very best salesman I can be. And I wanted to be, so Chevrolet would rank its top salesman in the zone. And I always wanted to be number one. And many times for many years, I was number one. And long story short, I wanted to become a manager, a new car manager. I applied at every single Chevrolet dealer in my zone, which is about 13 of them. And finally one hired me. I was 26 years old, and I was inspired by working at that company. And I thought, well, if these guys could be a dealer, why can't I be a dealer? So I'm quickly Googling how to become a dealer. And I ran into all these different brokers that are out there that sells dealerships. So I'm going to Montana. I'm going out west to all these different small towns, looking at these different dealerships that I could afford on my own, but they were just so small and structured. And it would have been a big life change for me going from where I'm at in Cincinnati, Ohio, to these small towns of 2,000 or 3,000 people. So long story short, the broker put me in touch with a gentleman who was eager to get into the business, but he didn't want to run the day-to-day. And he was eager to, help catapult somebody like myself to the next level in their career. Him and I have been partners for about 4.5 years now, and it's been a wonderful relationship. I run the day-to-day operations. I became dealer principal of the store when I was 30, and I'll be 34 here soon. So my highest level of education when I took over was being sales manager, new car sales manager of a pretty high volume Chevrolet store in Cincinnati, which is about an hour from my store now. So when I come in, I had no experience in fixed ops. I had no experience in used cars or none of that. So I relied on a lot of resources like your podcast here and NADA groups, and many good people out there who've inspired me over the years.
You know, it's a rare quality, Jacob, to go from you're on the back docks of a grocery store. Kroger's is a grocery store, right? But yet it's distinctly, this is an automotive path, into sales, into management, and then into ownership. What planted the seed in your head where you said, hey, as a salesperson or as a sales manager, I can become a dealer principal. I can become an owner?
So for me, I quickly realized when I got in the business, I was really passionate about cars, and that's what led me to the doorstep of wanting to become a car salesman. But I quickly realized you got to be a people person. And if you're not a people person and you're not passionate about what you do, it's going to be a hard road to go. At some point, you just got to say, hey, this is either for me or not for me. And for me, to answer your question, it was just, I thought, if they can do it, I can do it. And I just wanted more in my life. I wanted more for my family. And I really didn't think it would happen. And it's I'm 42 months now into the role, and I just absolutely love it. So one of your questions when I come on was, how's business? Business is fun. I wake up every day and there's no bad day. It's a great day every day.
So Jacob, a bunch of comments online. So Yoga Car says, that's fast. Congrats. Laura Klein says it's all about mindset and having a great attitude. And then our own CDG's Hannah Farmer says, very cool story, Jacob. We echo each one of those sentiments. One of the biggest hurdles to becoming a dealer is obviously the finances to be able to do it. So we want to talk a little bit about that. The other hurdle is factory approval. So at 33, how on earth, or at 30, how do you get OEM factory approval, even if you have the funding? What was that story?
Okay, so they have an interview process. That's a good question. They
Yeah.
have an interview process where you meet with several different factory reps from General Motors. And one of the things that inspired the reps that I met with about myself was I had about 9 years of Chevrolet dedicated experience at that time. I didn't hop from dealer to dealer. I didn't sell at Mazda for 3 months and then at Ford for 6 months. I stayed consistent with Chevrolet. And during my time with the Chevrolet brand, I was a very top producing salesman as well as sales manager in terms of CSI, hitting the factory goals that they set month in and month out. And as a new car salesman, I was selling roughly 400 plus new Chevys every single year. And like I said in the beginning, it was a 7-day journey for me. I was young, didn't have a family at the time, so I had the ability to commit myself, and that's exactly what I did. So my encouragement to be for people out there, number one, be passionate about what you do, but be willing to sink the time into it. It's easy to go online and see what people do and say, I wish I had that or this, but it's even harder to put the time in.
Yeah, I love Bill Vaughn's comment on social. He says, 30, wow, I'm a loser. Bill, you're not a loser. And
You're
this
not
is
a
why.
loser.
No, not at all. And by the way, this is why we have you on, Jacob, and others like you, because you show the path. What you have done is possible in today's world. Talk to us a little bit about the economics of it. You found an investor. What did it cost you cash in to get in an equity position? And are you on both operating and real estate, or just one of the two?
Operating, and it was a sizable investment. It's close to $1 million investment, and that was probably pretty good at the time. The store then was doing about $22 million in sales. It was selling about 300 new. This year it will eclipse $60 million in sales and do over 750 new cars. So it's definitely been getting pushed, by me and as well as the team. I've got a wonderful team. And one thing I did when I come into the store was I told myself, I'm not going to come in with an iron fist and start catapulting people out. And I've really worked hard to retain a lot of the same managers that I had come in daily, set goals, lead by example, and them see me in the trenches working, alongside of them to make things happen, whether that's service or sales.
So you're a young owner and you're in this brand new store, and you've got a financial backer that you've got to report to, including yourself and your family. What are some of the biggest changes that you made that resulted in the big increase that you now have created?
Yeah, and you said that well. Yeah, you said that well, because when I started with, not giving too much here, I literally had about $18,000 left in the bank. So I was lucky to go in, or a lot of us were at the time during COVID, where I think the stores were doing a lot better than what they organically would normally. So it was already making a little bit of money. But my main thing was just to push the factory goals. If General Motors wanted me to sell 30, my goal was to at least do 10% more than their goal. So I meet the factory goals and then some every month. And focus on PVR, used cars, buying used cars right, not over allowing in a used car every single time to make a new car deal, drawing that line in the sand so I could focus on not only just hitting new car units, but also making PVR on the used car side.
So Jacob, what would you say to a dealer that says, look, Your goal is to outperform the OEM's goal for you. But at the end of the day, it's about profitability for you personally. Like there's got to be a healthy balance between what the OEM wants and then you, delivering that net. What would you say to a dealer that says that in your situation?
Well, I would say to them, you got to look at all aspects of the business. So I'm part of an NADA 20 group. And one thing I focus on in that 20 group is having a 4% net return. And I'm thankful to say, since I took over the store, every single year has been a 4.75%
Wow.
return with
Wow.
add backs. So my strategy is I personally advertise my new cars, behind cost, about $1,000 behind cost. And then I
Okay.
push my F&I team to make back end money. We work to get every single trade in. And then on the used cars, we're hovering right around a $4,800 to $5,000 front and back PVR like clockwork, because we're buying that used car right at 94, 95% of the market. We're not burying ourselves in it just, again, like I said, to make a new car deal. So my saying to that would be, you could absolutely hit the factory goal and still get a return on profit. You just got to look at every category. And speaking of fixed ops real quick, my 20 group, they've been real good at setting me up with, for example, parts department every month, 38 to 40% gross profit return, service department, 70%. It's just meeting with the managers, in my opinion, and setting the goals and the expectations.
So 2.5 is a standard bench. You're a 1.5 above that, and a big part of that is the focus on the relationship between the dealer or you and the OEM, you and General Motors, and then being super focused on outperforming each one of your departments. The Auto Ranch says online, I have been a customer of Jacobs since he started in the business. He got there because he was the hardest working sales guy around. And he's also a passionate car guy, which I can tell you we can feel and sense that. You mentioned your involvement in 20 groups. Are you part of the CDG 20 groups or the CDG circles? There's dealer group, dealer operator 20 groups that we have. They're text chains. And then there's also GMs. Have you signed up for any of those and gotten any interesting insights out of that?
I have not, but that's a great inspiration, and I'm going to certainly do that. I am part of a 20 group through NADA, like I said, but they've been,
Very good.
I go to every meeting. I really invest myself, and I just try to I set goals and standards. I write them down, and, I don't go back from the meeting and push everybody the very next day, but over the course of 3 months, I work it into what we do. As managers, we meet every Thursday and Tuesday. We set goals. We talk about the wins. We talk about the losses, and we keep pushing forward. But the main thing for me and my role is focusing absolutely on the net profit. But I do want to meet the factory goals and standards. And I can say for 42 months at running Chevrolet of Troy, the stores hit it every single month, the highest benchmark that General Motors gives, which is 110% plus of your goals. So it's been a fun ride. And I think it will continue that way with, like I said, passion and enjoyment.
So a couple other questions about your growth, but I want to go to another online comment. Sagar Dagra says, cool, such an inspiration. They're asking, what were the problems you faced when growing up the hierarchy? Would love to know that. Not everyone is happy seeing people grow. And that's an interesting point, right? You can get to certain steps in your career where you're held down more than you are pushed up.
He is right. The comment is absolutely spot on. I think if you want to kill a big dream, you tell it to a lot of people. And, if you have something that you're passionate about, if you've got a goal in mind, the worst thing you could do is go back to the store that you're at now and tell everybody that, whether you're a salesman, hey, I want to become sales manager. If you're a sales manager, I want to become general sales manager. Because you're right. I was told years ago about a story about a bucket with crabs, and it's like one's trying to get out and it's crabs in a bucket. They just pull you down. They don't want to see you get to the next level. So he's right. And my answer to that would be to kill a big dream, tell it to a lot of people. Just keep it to yourself. Keep it on your noteboard. Look at it every day.
So your evolution, and it's been very fast from salesperson to dealer, is interesting because a lot of people who are elite salespeople, elite producers, there's something, and I want to be careful I say this, there's something inherently selfish. You've got to be selfish. You've got to take every up. You've got to develop a relationship with the customer. You've got to find the right inventory. You got to control the floor a little bit. And sometimes that skill set doesn't transfer well into a manager position, sales manager, GM. And sometimes that doesn't transition well into a dealer. Were there mindset shifts you had to take in each step along the way? And what was that like?
I think I would agree with you. And I think that there is people who would probably have to take them steps. For me, I felt like, of course, there's people working for me who may not agree, but I felt like that come pretty easy because I organically like to work with people. We have a lot of parties at my store, costume parties and holiday parties. And I started something when I took over the store called Test Drive for a Cause. So every single month, I partner with a local nonprofit. The store generates anywhere from $800 to $1,200 back to that nonprofit. We're giving away a car literally this Friday at Troy High School in the community the store's in. So for me, it was just taking care of people. And I knew if I was blessed from above to have this opportunity, that I need to make the very best of it. And make the very best of it is taking care of the people around you. 360.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the people. It's a people business.
Your story is so fascinating. I'm going to ask you to go against something you just said. You said have a big dream and then don't share it a lot. But when you look at the future, the next 5 years, 10 years, you're so young. So much of the runway is ahead. What is your goal for next step? Do you want multiple stores? Do you want a group? Where do you go from here?
I have been working diligently to get more stores. I've had 5 or 6 stores presented to me over in the metro where I'm at here in Cincinnati over the past year for various different reasons. The brokers and I, it went to another dealer. I had an offer put in. I had the financial backing. My partner and I had the resources to acquire larger stores, $100 million store. But for one reason or another, it didn't work out. We're actively trying to pursue another General Motors store right now that I think we're kind of close on. So I think to answer to get my plane off that runway, it's going to be, I want more stores. I want to become a dealer group, and I want to stay invested with my community that my stores are in and give them back.
So a lot of people online are asking questions about, and you don't need to tell us who your investor is, but what type of an area or background does this investor have? Is this person in automotive? Are they in another industry and they're kind of fascinated by automotive and they see the profit? What's the profile of someone who's a good investor partner look like that you found?
He's just like me, identical. He just doesn't want to be involved in the day to day. He did very well in the auto body shop world. He was in the automotive business, but never on the franchise side of things. But they always piqued his interest because, like me, he just loves cars. He's got a pretty big car collection here in Cincinnati, and but he's 58 years old and he just doesn't want to run the day to day. So him and I met after one meeting for lunch. We connected extremely well. He said, if you find a store, I'm willing to invest in you. That was in 2019. And in 2022, the pandemic slowed things down. We were finally able to close on Chevrolet of Troy, and that led to the opportunity. But his background is absolutely automotive, but it's also just business in general.
Yeah. All right. The producers are prompting me to move on, but I got to have 2 more questions because you got to give us some best practice gold, given your quick rise and given the massive impact you've had in that store in terms of gross, in terms of net, in terms of units sold. Give us one process that just changed the world in that store. And then I've got one other question that delivered to the bottom line, not just to culture, but to bottom line, since you've been there and part of it.
My answer would be patient with those that work for you. Be patient with the team members around you. They're there for a reason. They're there because they probably want to win like you. Not everybody's going to have the same passion and drive as me. I recognize that. But as long as they want to win and want to do well, and you see incremental progress and you think they're the right person, stick with them. Don't look to just cast them out so quickly.
All right. And what's one thing most dealers, as you're getting used to being around other dealers and you're understanding that environment, what's something most dealers just overcomplicate or don't get because they're thinking about it in an old mindset? And you're 30, you're looking at it fresh set of eyes.
So I'm on the board for the LMA for Chevrolet, which is part of the marketing and the advertising. And one thing that I see in particular that I've never understood is just talking bad about the manufacturer. Oh, they're pushing these EVs on us. Oh, they're pushing these processes and these regulations, and they're cutting profit and all these things. Focus on the controllables, not the uncontrollables. And I think that's what myself and my store, as well as my business partner, do well at, is focusing on what we can control, the fixed ops percentages, CRM processes, just everything that we can control. So a lot of dealers are very negative against the manufacturer that they represent.
All right. And finally, and then we're done, and just appreciate your time today. What message would you give to other salespeople or even that guy tossing bins at Kroger about the path, and somebody who might say, you know what, the opportunity or the time for that path that you've created is long gone. The bar to entry is way too high, and you just can't do what you've done anymore.
It's going to be different for everybody, but I think the main thing is don't give up and find something you're passionate about. write it down on your board at night, look at it, and just kind of work on a goal to get there. Don't get online and see what other people are doing and think that you're a loser, like the one gentleman or gal had mentioned there. Lift yourself up, be positive, and be thankful and grateful for what you got. But also at the same time, do push yourself for goals. Write them on a quiet board. Find something you're passionate about, and eventually you're going to win.
Jacob Shepard, dealer principal of Chevrolet of Troy. We absolutely appreciate you being on the show. It's been fascinating to hear your perspectives, your energy, and your excitement for our auto industry, and wish you all the best and the best of luck. Thanks, Jacob.
Thanks, you guys. Jacob. All the best to you and the people listening.
Thank you. Wow, that's a cool path. That's pretty
really cool. Just shows the power of intentionality. Yeah.
Well, and you know what? It got in his mind, this is what I want to do, and he went and got it. And I think that's still a possibility. No matter your age today in this environment, you can do it. You just got to know it. You got to be laser focused. And then there is something to reducing the noise between you and your goal. So speaking of reducing the noise, let's talk Automotive Mastermind. Top performing dealerships use Mastermind to drive loyalty, efficiency, and results, because they don't just automate, they activate. Learn more and take their sales efficiency assessment at drive.automotivemastermind.com/CDG. Again, drive.automotivemastermind.com/CDG. And then, of course, as always, you can scan the QR code if you're watching the live show, or if you're listening to the podcast, as many of our audience do. You can check out the link in the show notes for more information. We appreciate Automotive Mastermind for supporting today's content, including that cool tale from Jacob Shepard of going from tossing and stocking shelves at Kroger to now a dealer principal there in Ohio, and we wish him the best of luck. Up next today, let's turn to Automotive Mastermind. Speaking of which, let's go to Bill Egan. Bill Egan, Vice President Product at Automotive Mastermind. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Bill.
Oh, thank you very much, guys. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah. What do you think of Jacob's story? That's pretty cool, isn't it?
That was an incredible story. I'm very happy and very proud of him and what he's been able to accomplish in such a short time. I would say I have a different path in the automotive space. I've been 20 years in the industry, and I started off as a marketing intern in college for the Asbury Automotive Group, and went to their management training program, sold cars, and then eventually found my way into running their corporate marketing department, then Gulf States Toyota, and then been on the product side ever since. Really trying to help out dealers and understand where they're coming from and what can we do to make them more efficient and better.
How much of an advantage does it give you, your automotive background and knowing this industry and being able to speak to this industry? How much of an advantage does that give you as Vice President of Automotive Mastermind and serving your clients?
Yeah, it really comes down to how I work with my product team as well as with the engineers to really explain the why. Why are we looking at the things we're looking at? What are we trying to accomplish? But really getting everybody in the organization to understand what it means to the end user. And probably the best interview question I've ever had in my life was when I started at Mastermind. One of the product owners asked me, he's like, where does your product ideas come from? What's your methodology? And I really came down and said empathy. I've been there on Saturdays in August, and it's really hot and it's hard to sell a car. So if we can make that one salesperson more efficient and better and make sure that they can make a paycheck, we know the sales managers, the general managers and owners are going to be just as successful. So let's come from that kind of place. What can we do to make that individual better? And then ultimately the overall dealership as well as the manufacturer is going to be happy.
And Bill, just want to correct VP of Product. I want to correct that. I think I misstated that in the very beginning. So let's start. Let's start with our first question. How's biz, and what is biz in the world to you at Automotive Mastermind?
Yeah, business is going really, really well. When we look at our growth and the number of dealers that we're able to now get in front of and really help and support, whether it's through our manufacturer relationships and working and bringing it down to tier 3, or direct and organic with some of our enterprise groups as well as individual dealers. We've been spending a lot of time and investment really focused on that kind of efficiency side of salespeople, and then really what kind of insights, data enhancements, and things like that we can then bring to market, and then get that out to all their other systems to really kind of help declutter some of the problems that we have.
So, Bill, here at the Ziegler Auto Group, we do a monthly general manager meeting. We get all of our GMs together, and then we bring in one department. We'll do finance, we'll do sales manager, used car manager, new car manager. Today we had BDC and we had internet in. And I'll tell you what, Bill, you started to see about a year ago a lot of these AI tools start to creep into that meeting. Mm-hmm. Today, 90% of the meeting was occupied by different AI tools. They're all over the place. And there wasn't a single presentation from one of our 42 stores that was the same AI tool. They were all different. And so that leads me to my first question. Dealers truly are bombarded with different AI tools today. What separates AI that actually drives that sales behavior and helps from AI that's just automation, or as I like to call it, faux AI? What's the difference maker there?
I think you have to really understand what you're trying to use AI for. There's different areas and capabilities. Are you trying to use it for predictive models and forecasting? Are you trying to use it to just have large language models that are going to be talking to and from with customers based on the customer reaching out, or a chat or an internet lead, and then now you're trying to engage them using an LLM in that particular way? Or are you trying to use it to kind of understand and then be able to then prospect using AI capabilities? And I think as dealers, there's a lot of different AI tools out there. There's a lot of different use cases that they want to use it for, but you really have to really kind of narrow it down. What's the tool you're looking for? And then look at the use case, and can they accomplish that particular use case? I'm not saying that they're all great, but I'm also not saying that they're all bad within there. But there isn't one AI system that I've seen that can really do that predictive modeling, as well as the prospecting, and as well as the direct communication side of that. That's really kind of where the industry's got to figure it out. And that's when you're going to see winners and losers, I think, in the AI front coming over the next couple of years.
So what's the hurdle for fully solving for that? Why hasn't that been done completely yet?
Yeah, it really comes down to the back-end data side of it. So a lot of people have built large language models that really can figure out how to communicate to people and really read and understand the way the customer communicates and what their intent is. Yeah. But how do you get that person to engage in the first place? And that's really the prospecting side. And that's where I think Automotive Mastermind really kind of stands out, is because we've got our buyer propensity models and our BPS scoring, and really the behavior drivers of why a customer is going to be coming into market, what are they going to be coming into market for, how they're going to price it and buy their next vehicle. We use that to then really kind of craft that first initial message that's going to get the customer engaged. Right. And then you can use other tools out there to then really kind of hone in and get to that intent side and that back and forth. But how do you get that perfect message in front of them that's going to say, okay, I'm interested in talking?
So you mentioned the scoring. What goes into that scoring before we ask how you craft the message?
Yeah, so we have kind of an overall 0 to 100 BPS score. So what's the likelihood this customer is about to be in market to buy a car? And obviously 100s, so they're in market or they're really close to being about to be in market. But we've broken that down. In 2024, we really broke that down into an in-market score, a vehicle score. So do you have the car the customer would be interested in? And then the deal score. How are they going to structure their next deal? And we do that utilizing all of our data that we've got with our sister companies within S&P Mobility, Automotive Insights, Carfax. We bring all this kind of data together to be able to kind of craft up these scores. And then within there, what are the behavior drivers? One thing I really loved in your opening segment was you were talking about the 2026 outlook, and there's going to be a lot of shoppers out there, but there's not going to be a whole lot of people that understand why they want to buy or if they're going to buy right now. So how can then Mastermind bring all this data together, put the scoring model, and then put it in front of a salesperson to then articulate why a customer should be considering buying now, and then using our Fritz Copilot capability to even craft that initial message for them.
So I think that's, to your point about the news item, I do think that's fascinating, this idea, and I need to think about this more because it was in today's news, like this idea that there are shoppers that are online looking at vehicles and they're just not quite coming over that. Like they think interest rates will come down. They think things are going to get less expensive or more expensive, or for whatever reason, now's not, or maybe they're just confused because there's so many messages, so much data out there. Do you think there's truth to that? And how can a better crafted message sort of connect with them to bring them in to the dealership to have that conversation?
Yeah, so what I'm seeing in most consumers, they might not be necessarily in market, or they're just in market, just shopping around on vehicle detail pages because they're looking for service or they're looking for other things, but we're capturing all these events. But at the same time, their deal scores may be really, really good. I'm seeing a lot of Toyota customers right now that are probably not in market. In our scoring model, that's going to be in the 30 to 40 to 50 range. They're not quite ready to come into market, but the deal score is so incredible. They've got great equity in their vehicles. The incentives are starting to come back with those vehicles as well. And so I could lower your payment by $150. Now, that's not just a single data point that we can say this customer is going to buy a car, but how's their warranty look? What's going on with it? Maybe they're in a lease, and what's their mileage outcome going to be looking like? What are the vehicle upgrades and things that they've done? All of those kind of go into what we call our behavior drivers to then really kind of articulate. And with one click of a button, now a salesperson can then craft that, hey, I'm going to do a proactive call to this customer. What should I say? Or a text message or an email out to them to entice them and say, hey, maybe I can bring you into market a little bit sooner than you normally would.
So you've got this score. How do you correlate have you been able to connect the high score to them buying? How do you test it? How do you pressure test that? Okay, we've got all these different metrics that lead to a higher score. It shows that they should purchase. How do you test that score correlates with they're going to buy if we say the right things, do the right things?
So we're tracking all of that information with our sister company on the S&P Mobility, the Automotive Insights, or you probably know it as the Polk Automotive side of the business. And all their transactional data that they're able to receive, their relationships with the manufacturers and stuff, we're able to leverage that and then take the dealer's first-party data against our third-party data and then really understand, okay, not only that, you typically buy Hondas. That's great information to know. But, maybe for this Honda dealer, you financed your last vehicle. But before that, in your garage, you leased the 3 before that. Okay, now we can actually put some predictive score models in there. It's like, you know what? We think you're going to go and buy another Honda. This is kind of the Honda model we think you're going to go to based on life changes, demographic changes, added a kid, subtracted a kid, moved out of the house. All those kind of factors then can determine what vehicle you would think you'll go into next, including what competitors you might actually go towards. And then how are you actually going to produce it? Well, in your case, hey, you might have a really high likelihood to go back into a lease, but you didn't lease back in 2021, 2022 when the offers weren't very good.
It's fascinating how we can take all these data points, we can predict, and then we can match that prediction to messaging. So your Copilot system will build the call, the email, the text, and it will connect with that customer. And then at the end of the day, I believe that person on the showroom floor, once that customer is qualified and they're sitting there, we can sell to them. But you're doing a really good job of bringing that customer in through the door. You've recently announced Drive Centric, an integration with them. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about that. Part of the integration promises there's not going to be any more system switching. How are you measuring the time or efficiency gains that creates for sales teams? But maybe first talk about the deal first.
Yeah. So when we look at this and this partnership that we announced, it's our first time we're going to do a full data integration with the CRM and us. So everything that we've got from a mastermind side, we're going to be able to see and be able to utilize inside of Drive Centric. And then we're also going to be able to leverage the Drive Centric CRM data to then adjust our marketing and our communications and stuff that we're doing on behalf of the dealer. And so with this kind of partnership, we'll get that data. We'll really kind of prospect and bring people into market through our marketing, as well as use of Copilot and other systems within the Mastermind platform. But once they actually generate a lead, raise their hand, that's when Mastermind needs to stop. And that's one of the most difficult things about integrations in our systems in the industry is people don't know who's on first. So with this
systems,
exactly, we want to make sure that Drive Centric knows everything that we've done, and they want to make sure that we know when to tell Mastermind to stop. And as a user, as a BDC person or a sales manager, you'll be able to see all of those opportunities, all of our BPS scoring and what vehicle we think the customer is going to go into, how they're going to structure that deal. Does this customer have a private incentive with some of our OEM manufacturers? All of that will be available inside of Drive Centric so that users don't have to switch. If you're working a transaction, working a deal, in Drive Centric, you're going to have all that information. If you're trying to prospect and trying to drum up new business, that's when you're going to utilize Mastermind, but you can see it in both spots.
So it's interesting. I agree with you. I think the customer's got to be so frustrated today, where there's so much technology, there's so much capability, and yet we have so many different systems that are doing their own things, that like the world of the customer being contacted while they're sitting at home looks one way, and then the phone conversations look another, and then once they come in through the door, it looks a third way. So you've got this this new integration with Drive Centric. How long until you have more integrations where there are multiple CRMs that benefit from that as well?
Yeah, we've actually been reaching out to them, actually highlighting this this press release and saying, "Hey, we would love to do this with you guys as well." And so, luckily, we've gotten a couple of them come back to us and say, "Yeah, let's talk a little bit further." And we really started this type of integrations with CDPs last year, and helping out the Morgan Automotive Group and their Telium CDP build that they were doing. We've gotten more enterprise dealer groups also trying to build CDPs that we're trying to help power. And now this is our first opportunity to really get into the CRM side of the business, to where we can provide this data directly. Our goal is to make this as an open and agnostic system as we possibly can. How can we get this information in the hands of your salespeople the most efficient way? And when we look at utilization, and those are some of the big metrics internally that we want to monitor, we're working with them. So Drive Centric is going to be like, hey, we'll give you events that people are clicking and engaging in, the content that automotiveMastermind's putting in our system, so we can track that efficiency metric continued, and say, you know what, here's all the clicks and the events and things that they've had to do, that guess what, they didn't have to open up another tab to log into Mastermind to get. And we really look forward to hearing from our clients once we get the full integration live early next year to get their feedback and what they're seeing.
Less logins, more capabilities to integrate. We want that. We need that. Give it to us. So Bill Egan, Vice President of Product at Automotive Mastermind. We appreciate you being on the show, sharing your perspectives and these new integrations and new technical capabilities you have.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Bill. Cool. That's fun. So
super deep integration.
We should be done with the world where we have all these different logins, all these different data sets, and all these different customer experiences. We need one experience. So with that, let's turn to Fixed Ops Friday, but it's Wednesday. Fixed Ops Friday on Wednesday. We're going with that on every Fixed Ops call. Let's welcome Ryan Carlstedt, EVP Fixed Operations at Willis Automotive Group. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. And what an honor to be the first ever Fixed Ops Wednesday, right?
Yes.
Ryan, thanks so much for coming on the show. We got to start off with our signature question. And while you're answering that, the question is, how's biz? And then give us a little background. Who are you? What do you do? And give us some context on the group.
Business is great. We've got a great year going in 2025 here across all of our brands. And my background, gosh, I was born into the car business. My dad was actually a fixed operations director for a local dealer group here in town in Des Moines. And I took my first job out of college. I went to work for Enterprise Rent-A-Car and then joined the dealership shortly thereafter, and jumped over to Willis. I've been at Willis Automotive almost for 12 years now. And gosh, it's just been a ride. I think of my first job in the dealership was probably sweeping the floor in the parts department. And I think my first paycheck was a day-old donut. But now, in this role, just nine.
So you're second gen in the business, following Dad's footsteps. I love it. Hey, so how's, aside from business being great, where have you brought the group? Where have you started from, and where are you today? Can you give us some context there?
I started as a service advisor, worked my way up to service manager, and then parts and service manager. Been with many different brands along the way: Honda, Hyundai, Chevrolet. When I joined Willis, I actually came on to be the service manager for the mini service department. And for our accessory installation department, we put Expel vinyl paint protection on a lot of vehicles. Kind of headed that up. And through here, I've held several jobs too. Took on the reconditioning department, Cadillac service, and then parts director, and then into this role now as Jason Willis, our DP. He was the fixed director or EVP of fixed operations that hired me. And when he moved into that DP role, I got to come in and take over his office.
I love it. I wanted to make a little joke about a mini service department, but we all know it's a full-size service department. So I won't
No,
go there.
it's pretty mini.
So as we all know, fixed ops is the absolute backbone, and it's always been super important. But now that margins are kind of compressing, it's more important than ever. Tell us something that you are doing in your organization that you're absolutely crushing.
For us, recruiting and retaining technicians, I think it's the most important thing. Years ago, across our group, I think we had 14 or 16 technician jobs open. And that was when I really said, I'm going to focus in. It's hard to get guys to jump ship, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're comfortable with the brands they work on. They're comfortable with the dealerships that they work. So we're going to focus our recruiting efforts into colleges, into high schools even.
Mm-hmm.
And, we built and just live off of our relationship with a local community college here, DMAC, Des Moines Area Community College. I'll bet we've hired 24 students out of there in the last few years. And we just focus now on getting good students, hiring the best of the best, bringing them in. Our senior technicians, they're bought in on taking these students under their wing, and they know that they're growing the next generation of automotive technician. They take pride in that.
Yeah.
And so we really just focus on building our own. We're not going to get a bunch of guys jumping over.
Well, it's fascinating that you mentioned these, pools to draw from. I mean, it's not rocket science. We have a lot of dealers that say the same thing, but they're maybe not as successful in recruiting from there. What are you doing differently that allows you to have that success in recruiting this talent and then growing your talent in-house?
I spend a lot of time there myself. I'm up at DMAC. I'm meeting the students. We bring in pizza. We buy them lunch. We get to know them. And, we developed an apprenticeship program a few years ago. We bring in 4 kids in the summer and we say, learn about us. I'm so confident that once you come in and meet us and get to know us and work with us, that you're not going to leave and that you're going to go be an advocate for us with the other students. That, just bringing in 4 in the summer, keeping them hooked in, getting them to go back and, sing the praises of what it's like to work for Willis. And just, again, the relationships you build at the school, whether it's with the professors or the counselors. Yeah. I really feel like we get the best of the best out of that school. And there's a giant Chevy store right down the street from them.
Oh, wow. Well, listen, for dealers that are listening in on this conversation, what's something that you could suggest for them to structure these in-house apprenticeships or mentorship programs?
I sat down with some of our senior technicians and I said, what are the things that they need to learn? We got a Chevy store and a Cadillac store. So with that, the ASEP programs already got the structure there. So you can really just take away from their programs. What is it? Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery.
Yeah.
And I didn't revolutionize this thing. I just looked at a lot of different programs and built one for us. And then getting in there, building the relationships at the school, showing them what we have, and, understanding that we're going to bring in their students and we're going to give them a great career in the automotive field.
It is such a rewarding career, isn't it? So
Yes.
Now you have the pipeline, you're recruiting these people, and now you're implementing them and deploying them on these under these rooftops.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing? What are you pushing? What KPIs are you monitoring on the day-to-day that really help push the needle?
Early on in their career, we're super lenient. When we look at students, let's say I hire you out of high school, I'm going to give you the first 4 years after high school. I'm going to guarantee your clock hours during that time. If I hire you out of college, I'm going to give you your first 2 years out of college. And that way we can just call it a 4-year learning curve, right? Where by then you're ready for flat rate. You're ready to make a great career on flat rate. So that's part of it, just that leniency right out of the gate while they're learning. And then on along, we're looking at their productivity. We're looking at all of the regular, KPIs that the car dealerships talked about for years. But for me, it's attitude and work ethic. They're KPI 1 and 2. I think you had a guest last week that even mentioned something along those lines. He didn't use the word attitude and work ethic, but he kind of said something along the lines of, I can't train that. We can have guys come in and train you how to fix cars, but I can't teach you how to be a good coworker, a good employee, and just enjoy life in general.
For sure.
And when we have
Being a
that
good-
great attitude and work ethic, then we're going to bet the house on them. And, we started a deferred compensation package for our technicians about 5 years ago now. And, we do a lot to make sure that once you come in, you're going to realize that it's the best place to be and you're going to stay.
Expand on that deferred compensation package for us.
Yeah, we came up with the idea 5 years ago. We said it's a 3-year deferred compensation package. And I wish I had my notes in front of me, but like I said, attitude, work ethic, effort. I put effort on the list on how we decide how much money we're going to put in there, because a guy, he can give you his all, and his all might be 98% efficiency. Am I really worried about that extra 2% or 12% to get to 110? If he's given me everything he has and has a great attitude, I want to reward him for that. So we set these standards up, and we said at the end of the year, we're going to put a discretionary amount into your deferred compensation account. And at the time, it was up to $3,000 per guy per year. And
Wow.
the coolest part, though, was when we brought it out 5 years ago, we said that you're not going to have to wait 3 years. We're going to just go ahead and push the time machine and act like we put this thing in 3 years ago, and we populated everybody's account right on day one with 3 years worth of their deferred comp, just looking back if they worked with us on those 5 measurables. And we filled up these accounts and we pay them out every single year. The coolest is if you choose to retire, we always say here, our goal is for everybody to retire from Willis. So if you have a great career and you retire, the best part is I pay you out the full lump sum on your retirement date. So some of the most fun days I've had is, guys that worked for us for years and years, and they decide they're going to retire, getting to go hand them that check right at the very end. You think of the old days of the Rolex watch.
Yeah.
Technicians, us fixed ops guys, we don't really care about a Rolex watch, but hand me a check for 12 grand on my last day.
Yeah.
That's a pretty nice little going away gift.
For
So,
sure.
what a cool program. What a great way to create a tradition of retention and letting people know you value them. I just have a question. So you going back to the, hey, if they're doing their best, right? If 98% efficiency is their best, we're going to go ahead and pay them. But if another guy's not, like, how do you avoid that becoming a problem, right? If one guy's like, hey, 90 is my best, and the other guy's like, I'm at 105. Like, do you ever get people that push back a little bit on pay me my full at 95?
No, the employees that we hire, the technicians that we have, they all want to be the best, and they all give. They're all, and
so
we have those relationships, we build them, and I trust that we're getting it all.
Yeah. So you've got a lot of manufacturers. So you've got Cadillac, Chevy, Infiniti, JLR, Lexus, Mini, Nissan, Volvo. Do any of your OEMs support your training efforts? Is there one that stands out as being really supportive of your training and retention efforts, and another one that struggles a little?
Well, God, I'm sure you heard it over and over. I don't want to say any of our partners are bad, but we definitely have one that's just unbelievable, and that's Lexus. Their partnership with the dealer group, it goes back to the covenant. They want to be number one, and they are. All of our brands have great training. They do what they can to help us. Land Rover is the biggest struggle. Jag Land Rover.
Why? Why
it's
is that?
Hard. I think it's just a volume thing, right? When you can only handle bringing so many guys in for training, and as the brand grows on our side, on their side, it's just got to be tough to say, I want to train the next generation of 10,000 technicians across the country, and I have the capacity to train 20 at a time, 10 times a year.
What message would you give to JLR that you've learned from your best OEMs if you're asking for better support?
Yeah, just come hang out at our Lexus store for a couple days.
Yeah. What does Lexus get right that others could learn from? Everything.
Just the value of the partnership, just everything that they do, it's tip top. They're truly a partner.
Yeah.
I think Jacob earlier, he mentioned don't ever badmouth, your manufacturers. And I 100% agree. But when you have one that stands out that much more than the rest, I mean, they're all great. Lexus is just better. It is truly a partnership. They don't push a bunch of programs on us. They don't force us to do things that we don't want to do. They understand that we're in business together, and together we can go a lot further.
So important.
And that is the truth, particularly, you know, as you're hiring the right technicians, you're training them and retaining them. That is an art, but then also partnering with the OEMs and helping to do that is an art as well. What do you think is the biggest mistake? This is our last question for today that most dealers make when trying to hire that young technician. What's the biggest mistake?
It's that patience thing. I think they think, okay, you finished 2 years of local community college, you're going to come in and just hit the ground running. And, I just don't think they have the patience to get through that first couple years, and they give up on them too early. And, like I said, that 4 years out of high school, 2 years out of college, it's a learning curve. Their job is not easy. It's only going to get harder.
Yeah.
And you got to be patient with them.
All right. I got to ask you one more question. We had a guest on last week, and he's like, look, I tell young technicians that are looking for a job, if you want to work with your hands, the shop's a great place to be. If you want to work with your mind, go find another job. And he didn't say it quite that way. I'm being a little facetious, but a technician is more of a thinking job than it used to be, is it not? Like, you've got to be able to study very complicated charts, understand it. And it's a skill. It's a different skill set today than it was even 20 years ago.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I say you can have it here and not have it here. It's the ability to get it from here to here. That makes connection. And you have to be able to work with your hands 100%. But it's the thinking is step one. You just have to be able to get it out of your brain and into your hands. One of my very first service manager jobs, I had a great guy in the shop. Passed all his ASCs. He was probably the valedictorian of any school. If there was the straight A ASC guy, he was him. And I watched him doing a brake job one time, and he was scratching his head doing this. And that's where it clicked to me, where you can have it all in your head, but you got to be able to get it to your hands.
Yeah, I love that.
And,
truth. That is truth.
It takes both.
Ryan Carlstedt, EVP Fixed Operations at Willis Automotive Group. Thanks for being on the show. And I have ridden on a bicycle by your dealership as part of Ragbri there in Iowa. So
great. Next time afterwards, we'll here,
let's do it.
Let's
do it. Joaquin. That's right. That's right. So thank you for being on the show. We appreciate your perspective.
Thanks, Ryan.
Fun. Take care.
Yuli, a heck of a fun show. All of social was a light today. A ton of great feedback to everybody watching, including Nate, the truck driver, who said, hello there. I'm still around, reporting in from the showroom. Thanks for being here, and thanks for watching. And to all of our Daily Dealer audience, thanks for watching Daily Dealer Live, where we break down the biggest moves in the car business as they happen. Don't forget, everybody, we're here live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So if this is your world, hit like, subscribe, turn on those notifications, every single one of them, so you never, ever miss a beat. And we'll see you next week, or next Friday. We'll see you this Friday in 2 days, everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.